before you paint your house, one of the most important things you need to do is clean it. I'm with Chris Berry, the Idaho Painter, who's going to give us some tips on using a power washer.
There's some pretty important things when it comes to using a power washer, and that's safety. There's a lot of pressure going through these power washers and these nozzles. You can injure yourself. You definitely got to be careful spraying and using these things to not get in the way of it, your feet or your hands.
So we rented this unit to power wash my house, and what size power washer do you need to effectively clean your house?
The bigger the power washer you rent, the faster you're gonna be able to power wash your house, basically. This unit here, we rented a 3,000 PSI power washer, and then typically they're gonna give you a PSI or a gallons per minute, but the power washing company, the rental yard, they just said, how many PSI do you want? I said, I'll take one that's 3,000 PSI. You can get them typically down to, at rental yards, around 2,000 PSI. There's electric units that are around
I have a 1700 electric 1700 PSI unit, and Chris looked at it and said, this would take all day to power wash the house, so that's why we rented this one.
Yeah, really small. This thing will cut down the power washing time significantly. I can do the house probably about an hour with this thing versus a half a day with a 1700 PSI power washer.
One last question, what nozzle do you use? I know you've got the red tip, yellow tip. I noticed you're using this black tip.
So that's a good question. So there's all these tips, and they send out, typically your standard tips are just a flat fan, wide fan, or the red nozzle right here is a straight fan. This thing right here is a rotating nozzle, and it just spins out rotating water, and what it does is it actually agitates the surface and it cleans a lot faster than those straight nozzles. So these are called rotating nozzles right here.
Cool, let's give it a shot.
So we've got our power washer set up. We want to get water to it. We just hooked it up to our water. Now we're gonna fire up our water, make sure our water is going to the power washer, and that's very, very important that you always have water going to your power washer at all times, and that you never let your power washer run for any significant time without water going through the hose, because it'll heat up the pump, overheat it, and then it'll burn it up.
So it looks like you've got water running through it right now, but you haven't even fired up the machine.
Yeah, so it's actually, the hose is turned on, the water will actually flow through here, and it'll flow through here, and then what I'm actually doing is running and making sure there's no air bubbles in there, and then by pulling the trigger right now, it makes pulling the pull start on the engine a lot easier.
Chris has already power washed about half of the house in under an hour. I mean, it takes no time when you've got the right tools and, well, years of experience too.
Yeah.
How do you know how far to go? How far to take it before you're cleaning too far and wasting your time?
That's a good question. So the big thing is you don't want to damage your house. So these power washers, when you start to go up in PSI, the amount of pressure that's coming out, you can start to do a lot of damage, and you just have to start off at quite a distance from the house, and then you just work yourself to the house, and you really got to just go by feel. Especially the rotating turbo nozzles, if you get them too close, like if you get them too close to your screen on your house, you can damage the screen really easy, but you'll get the feel of it really fast.
What about the windows? Could you like break the windows or something?
It would be really hard to break a window, but you could. If you got that thing within 6 inches and you pulled the trigger, you possibly could break a single
And what about
window.
if you have paint chipping away in spots and you start picking at it a little bit more, do you just keep going or just leave it?
Well, we actually use our power washers to strip paint a lot. So we'll actually, if the paint starts flying off really easy in areas that we know we need to sand and strip, we'll use it to strip paint. But on this house where the paint is in good condition, you don't want to get too close and damage the house and strip the sound paint that's on there now.
Okay, Chris has just finished power washing the entire house. So, any last words of advice when power washing, and what worst case scenario? What happens if you try painting your house without washing it?
Well, if you try to paint it without washing it, then you could have some bonding issues with the paint, because if there's a lot of dust and debris and dirt like that, you're gonna be painting right over the top of that, and that's just gonna create an unsound surface.
peel off.
The paint can just peel right off. Yeah. So you definitely just want to, spend the time power washing it. I think we got this thing done in an hour and a half or so. So it's just
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. It looks like a brand new house now. I don't even know if
Yep.
we need to get it painted.
all fresh and clean and ready to paint.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
You're welcome.